This selection is from the Armies of the Night and describes a meeting between Robert Lowell and myself at a dinner party. The conversation took place while we were having drinks before the meal began. Underlying it, of course, is the tension in everyone present that in the next couple of days we were going to march on the Pentagon, but none of that appears here. You know, Norman, said Lowell in his fondest voice, Elizabeth and I really think you are the finest journalist in America. Mailer knew Lowell thought this. Lowell had even sent him a postcard once to state the enthusiasm. But the novelist had been shrewd enough to judge that Lowell sent many postcards to many people. It did not matter that Robert Lowell was by overwhelming consensus judged to be the best, most talented, and most distinguished poet in America. It was still necessary to keep the defense lines in good working order. A good word on a card could keep many a dangerous recalcitrant in the ranks. Therefore, this practice annoyed Mailer. The first card he'd ever received from Lowell was on a book of poems, Deaths for the Ladies and Other Disasters, it had been called. And many people had thought the book a joke, which, whatever its endless demerits, it was not. Not to the novice poet, at least. When Lowell had written that he liked the book, Mailer next waited for some word in print to canonize his thin tome. Of course, it never came. If Lowell were to begin to award living American poets in critical print, 200 starving worthies could with fairness hold out their bowl before the escaped novelist would deserve his turn. Still, Mailer was irked. He felt he had been part of a literary game. When the second card came a few years later, telling him he was the best journalist in America, he did not answer. Elizabeth Hardwick, Lowell's wife, had just published a review of An American Dream in Partisan Review, which had done its best to disembowel the novel. Lowell's card might have arrived with the best of motives, but its timing suggested to Mailer an exercise in neutralsmanship, neutralize the maximum of possible future risk. Mailer was not critically equipped for the task, but there was always the distant danger that some bright and not unauthoritative voice, irked at Lowell's enduring hegemony, might come along with a long lance and presume to tell America that posterity would judge Allen Ginsberg the greater poet. This was all doubtless desperately unfair to Lowell, who on the basis of two kind cards was now judged by Mailer to possess an undue, unchristian talent for literary log rolling. But then Mailer was prickly. Let us hope it was not because he had been beaten a little too often by book reviewers, since the fruit of specific brutality is general suspicion. Still, Lowell now made the mistake of repeating his remark. Yes, Norman, I really think you are the best journalist in America. The pen may be mightier than the sword, yet at their best, each belong to extravagant men. Well, Cal, said Mailer, using Lowell's nickname for the first time, there are days when I think of myself as being the best writer in America. The effect was equal to walloping a roundhouse right into the heart of an English boxer who has been hitherto right up on his toes. Consternation, not Britannia, now ruled the waves. Perhaps Lowell had a moment when he wondered who was guilty of declaring war on the minuet. Oh, Norman, oh, certainly, he said, I didn't mean to imply, heavens, no, it's just I have such respect for good journalism. Well, I don't know that I do, said Mailer. It's much harder to write, the next said with great and false graciousness. It's much harder to write a good poem. Yes, of course. Chuckles. Fellow headmastersmanship. They were both now somewhat spoiled for each other. Mailer got up abruptly to get a drink. He was shrewd enough to know that Lowell, like many another aristocrat before him, respected abrupt departures. The pain of unexpected rejection is the last sweet vice left to an aristocrat, unless they should happen to be not aristocrats, but secret monarchs. Then watch for your head.